What's up, Hockey Talk Show fans? Oh my God, we're back in the studio. Back in the studio. It's been far too long since we've been in the studio. We've been doing all these live shows, these big live reaction shows, which, by the way, we will be doing tomorrow. Once again, Game 7. These elimination games have been exciting as all heck. Game 7 tomorrow night. 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock. I forget what it was now. I don't even know what it is. 8 o'clock. Game 7 right here on the Hockey Talk Show, only on our YouTube channel. We're only going to be broadcasting from our YouTube channel on the live reaction show. So if you're used to watching on Facebook, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. You can get a very, very easy link at hockeytalkshow.com. On tonight's episode, we got some trade rumors to talk about. We got a new Carolina Hurricanes front office and coach to talk about. We have Brad Marchand to talk about. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. It is a Hockey Talk Show. Thanks for being here. Yes, indeed. Oh, it's so good to be back. Welcome in. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, so nice to have you here. Joe, welcome in. Aaron, what's up? Aaron's first statement, insanity from Aaron right off the bat. Pittsburgh needs to rebuild. But what's crazy about it is that's exactly what the Pittsburgh Penguins are saying. I cannot believe it when I open my eyes today and I see some of the exit interviews that are going on over in Pittsburgh, and the general manager is talking about this team's not going to look the same next year. I mean, we have reached a height of insanity lately in sports. You know, look at the Yankees, look at the Pittsburgh Penguins. I mean, I get it. It's working. They're winning. They're winning big time. But, I mean, how much more do we want from these teams? I mean, our level of expectations is beyond crazy. Beyond crazy. I thought the Yankees were crazy for getting rid of Joe Girardi. And I thought the Pittsburgh Penguins and Jimmy Rutherford were nuts for getting rid of or talking about redesigning this team a little bit. They didn't say there would be some massive overhauls, but they said that they were going to definitely look different next year than they have been looking or were looking this year. So we're going to read some of the comments that Jimmy Rutherford had to say. I want to touch on Brad Marchand really quick. John Tavares we're going to address for sure. Will John Tavares go to the Pittsburgh Penguins? I actually have a way that he could do that. It breaks my heart to say that as an Islander fan, but I actually think there is a path to John Tavares wearing the black and gold of the Pittsburgh Penguins. That is quite very possible. So we'll talk about that as well on the show, and we'll get into a whole bunch of other things. And of course, any trade rumors that you guys want to talk about, you just let me know in the comments below. Is the sound okay? It's been a while since we've been in the studio, and I actually did a show for my radio station. I had to change some things around. I'm noticing a little bit of a difference on my end, but I just want to make sure it's not annoying. So give me a thumbs up if the sound is okay. That'd be appreciated. Liz with a great point. Doesn't every team do that? Every team say that every year. Basically, yeah. Basically, that's kind of what happens, but which kind of drives me nuts, because then where does it stop? Like, you know, to me, the answer from Jimmy Rutherford is, yeah, we're going to look at some things, you know. Thanks, Ralph. Appreciate that. But instead, he's out there going, yeah, teams going to look. Like, I mean, as a Pittsburgh Penguin fan, what other expectations can you have? What other, thanks everybody for the thumbs up on the sound. What other expectations can you have? You won 2 cups in a row. You went to the second round in the playoffs. You know, your luck just ran out. I watched that series. I thought they played good. I just thought it's Washington's year this year. You know, how many more times can you win? I know the goal is to win every single year, but I don't know if I would necessarily do any major overhauls, except if I can get John Tavares, which I think I can if I'm Jimmy Rutherford. And I will share those thoughts with you guys on how exactly I think that can indeed happen. Anything you want to talk about regarding your team, throw the question in the comments section on Facebook or YouTube, and I will address it as soon as possible. I don't foresee this being an overly long show, seeing as that we're going to do 2.5 hours tomorrow night, and that we did 2.5 hours the other night. But we'll definitely cover everything we have to before we get out of here. I promise you that. I want to talk about Brad Marchand, his comments. He is such a weasel. He is just such a weasel. And I think he's the kind of guy that literally just cannot even control himself in the heat of the battle. And by that, I mean not just in the games, but also, you know, in between games, because the Brad Marchand that spoke today, what's today? Wednesday, right? Yeah. The Brad Marchand that spoke today was not the Brad Marchand we saw during the series. So I think now that he's kind of out of it a little bit, he's speaking a little bit more clearly. I don't believe him. I still think he sucks. Not that he sucks. He's a great player, but I can't stand him. I just don't like his whole thing. But I definitely think that we heard from a different Brad Marchand today. In fact, let's just start there with what his comments were. Again, whether you choose to believe him or not, that's entirely up to you. I don't know if I necessarily believe him, but I do think that he was definitely saying some different things. I'll just go ahead and read you his quote. Essentially, he said, and I quote here, this is Brad Marchand, "It's one thing when it's bringing some heat down on myself, but when you start bringing some heat to the team and the organization and being a distraction, that's when it hits you a little bit harder. So yeah, it's tougher when you start to disappoint the team and everyone. That's a bit of a wake-up call." Brad went on to say, "I know I've said that in the past, but I think that's got to be the thing that I really work on most. I think I've gotten my game into a pretty decent spot, but I've got some character things and things that I've done that clearly need some fixing." Truer words never spoken. I mean, his game is so great. He would be unbelievable without the licking. You know, the licking, the headshot to what's his name and the Devils. I mean, just edge out some of that stuff a little bit, and you're going to be amazing. You know, we talked about the hit that Tom Wilson laid, right, and during the Pittsburgh series. It just a little bit, like you can still put your shoulder through somebody. You don't need to jump up and and try and knock them out. Don't try and murder them. And you would be surprised at how much more valuable you would be to your team. Sometimes it's hard to see these things from the inside. Sometimes not so much. Nicholas, what about Montreal this offseason? What would you trade Pacioretty for? Or what would you trade Pacioretty for? Whatever I can get. And I'd want to get a lot. I think Pacioretty should be traded. I think that it's broken in Montreal. It was broken with PK Subban. You know, it was never going to work. Once the PK Subban trade happened, it was even more broken. You know, it's time to give this team over to Shea Weber. He's obviously going to be the next captain. You want to build from the net out. You've got if not one of the greatest goaltenders. You know, when he's on and healthy, he's the best. And you got one of the best defensemen in the league, kind of getting up there in age. But regardless of that, he is as solid as ever. Build from there straight on out. And I think you got a great base to go on. I think it's a rebuild in Montreal, a hardcore rebuild. I think they're in worse shape than the Rangers are. The Rangers are in such better shape since they made all those moves at the deadline. None of those moves happened for Montreal. They have nothing in the cupboard. They don't have a lot as far as prospects go. They sent their last prized possession over to the Tampa Bay Lightning. Drouin's a good start. You got to clear out some of those other guys that just aren't working. The Gallaghers and the Russian kid whose name escapes me right now because I'm on a little bit of a roll. I'm heated. you got to get rid of those guys. You got to clear house. I would trade everybody as much as I possibly can and just get back everything I can. And I wouldn't hold it. I wouldn't pull a Joe Sakic with Pacioretty, but Galchenyuk, thank you. I wouldn't pull a Joe Sakic here, but Joe Sakic, he kind of changed things around with the Duchesne trade. He got a lot. He got a lot for Duchesne. And the difference between Duchesne and Pacioretty is noticeable, but still 30 goal scorers when they're both doing their thing, right? I mean, assists will be different between the two. Obviously, one's a centerman and one's a winger. So that's a little bit of a difference. Centerman is harder to get. But still, I mean, points-wise, scoring-wise, it's around the same. So if I'm the Montreal Canadiens, I'm trading Gallagher for whatever I can get back. I will take a 4th-round pick if I have to. I'm trading Galchenyuk for a 7th-round pick if possible. And I'm trading Pacioretty for certain. And I would try and do these things before the trade deadline so that I can get a pick in this year's draft, because it's got to start now. It's got to start right now. So that's what I would do if I were the Montreal Canadiens, because you got to put some stuff in the cupboard. They don't have it. They just flat out don't have it right now. The Rangers were able to get a little something back in return. They got a little something cooking. I'm not saying that they're going to be there next time around, next season, but they're definitely a little bit farther advanced than where the Montreal Canadiens are going to be. Let's see here. Completely agree. Thanks for being a guy that... thanks for not being a guy that dumps on Weber just because he was traded for Subban. Look, I wouldn't have made that deal. And I think everybody knows that Montreal lost in that deal. I think that Bergevin is an interesting character, and I feel like he might be dealing a little bit from a place of desperation, which worries me for Canadiens fans. That being said, it's still Shea Weber, man. I'd take him on my team. Take him in a second. He's still a great player, and it's not his fault for who he was traded for. That's just fans being dumb and commentators being dumb if they're dumping on him for that. He's very worthy, and he's going to be great with Carey Price and anybody else who they bring in. It ain't Weber's the problem. Mete being next to Weber's the problem. They need more D and better D. What's Vancouver going to do? It's funny. Vancouver, Montreal, San Jose, just add it to the list. You go and look at their to-do list in the offseason. John Tavares is up at the top of that list. Everybody's going to be sitting and waiting on John Tavares. Vancouver has the space for it. I think they're going to take a long, hard look at it. Obviously, like I said, Tavares is going to be heavily influenced by Tyler Seguin, who can sign on the 1st with the Dallas Stars only. And if he doesn't that day, I think that is going to start the ball rolling on Tyler Seguin's year to be in the spotlight of why hasn't he re-signed yet, where John Tavares just was this year and where Steven Stamkos famously was just before. So I think that Vancouver has a lot to do. Again, they have a great base. We know who they have. Brock Besser and Bo Horvat's going to be a captain over there for sure. Goaltending, bit of an issue for me. They're kind of in that no man's land with St. Louis. It's not awful, but it's not as good as it needs to be to contend and win a cup. So that's going to be a question mark. But as you'll see, and I've just started to kind of look at everybody's roster. Goaltending is an issue. It's a rabid issue in the league right now. Rabid. The guys who were supposed to be there this year weren't. Carey Price, right? Henrik Lundqvist, Cam Talbot. You know, again, on the spectrum, Price, Lundqvist, Talbot. All three of them still weren't where they were supposed to be, even though two are better than the latter. But I mean, there's just a lot of teams that are looking for goaltending help. A lot of teams. I think there's going to be more trades in this offseason than any other offseason. I think free agency is going to be a big deal, obviously, but I think we're going to see tons of trades this year, tons of trades, because a lot of teams want to make some improvements, and there's just not a lot there in free agency. Did I see the cartoon of Brad Marchand from the Toronto Sun yesterday? I did not, but I think you sent it to me, but I haven't taken a peek at it. I'll try and take a look right now. Weber would even be better as captain. Shea Weber would be a far better captain than what Max Pacioretty has been able to do. It's nothing against Pacioretty. He's just not captain material. Some players are not. It's not always the best player that should be the captain. It's not always the most offensively skilled player that should be the captain. Let me see here. I wonder if Marchand is just an attention whore. Obviously, he likes getting a rise out of people and being a pest. But it almost seems like it's at the point where he just wants to hear his name. I could buy into that. It's definitely something. I mean, let's be honest. Licking is very bizarre, peculiar behavior. I mean, really, the nuzzling, let's not forget, it started as a nuzzle and grew into a lick. Okay. So you might have a point there, Liz, because it started as a nuzzle and it wasn't really talked about as much. And then he licked again. Maybe he does. I don't know. I just can't stand his face. It just drives me nuts. Let me see here. Nick, yes, Montreal has a top 3 pick, and that's tremendous, but you need more. And I'm not saying you need, to get back into the top 10. I'm just saying you need picks. You just need picks if you're the Montreal Canadiens. I mean, I just want picks. That is what they need to be, fiercely concerned about, because I think, and I'm going to double check this right now, but I'm pretty sure that they are lacking some of their draft picks for this year. All right, they're lacking 6 and 7, but they have 4 second rounders. Okay, so I was a little incorrect there. 4 second rounders and 3 fourth rounders. So maybe they can get a nice little spot up in the first round again. Maybe they can get up there a little bit. The problem is you got to get away from that Galchenyuk contract. He's got 2 more years at almost $5 million. Andrew Shaw, who I love, I think you got to trade him because he's going to bring you a lot of value. Teams are going to want him. Under $4 million. He's a great player. Brendan Gallagher's making almost 4 for another 3 seasons. Like, you got to shed some of these. You got to find somebody willing to take those deals, and you got to shed them. Jeff Petry's making 5.5 for another 3 years. Carl Alsner did not work out, and you got him for another 4 years. So you got a contract issue there. Not as bad as what Detroit's looking at, but you got a contract issue over there for sure. For sure. And as far as who do you take, I would take Tkachuk if I get him. If you can take Tkachuk, if Tkachuk is there when they pick, then yes, Tkachuk. Marchand's a creeper. What about Las Vegas? Gonna talk about Vegas. Screw Snow. Maybe Marchand is a cannibal and is tasting people. That's entirely a possibility that I hope is not true. Hoping these Lamoriello rumors are true. To the Islanders. What's up, Will? How you doing, man? With Samsonov, Holtby, and Grubauer, who's out for the Capitals? I think Grubauer. And I think that Grubauer is going to go for, just like Scott Darling, just like Cam Talbot, I think there's going to be a massive, massive return for Grubauer. I think when you look around the league at who's available free agent-wise for goaltenders, it's like Kerry Letton he's either at the top or he's very close to the top, which that makes me very uncomfortable. Kerry Letton in no way, shape, or form should be your top-end free agent goaltender anywhere, in any world. So I think some of these goalies or some of these goalie situations, same thing in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's got a couple of the young guys down in the A, Tristan Jarry, and the other kid who split a little time. and they might be able to drum up some interest. The Buffalo obviously is going to be a question with Robin Leonard being a restricted free agent, but I think they'll hold on to him. You're going to have a lot of goalie interest, and then teams like the Caps, you know, I think they're going to get a lot of interest for Grubauer because he's played really well. He's played really well. What's insane about this is the Capitals are going to the Eastern Conference Final, and Holtby got them there. Essentially, not really got them there, but played really well to get them there and didn't even start the playoffs. That's what's kind of nuts. The Corey Schneider thing is kind of interesting. We heard his name get drummed up a little bit, like he's just not performing as well as he should. I don't know what's going to happen there in Jersey, but I wouldn't give up on Corey Schneider so easily if I was the Devils general manager. Let's see here. In my humble opinion, Grubauer will go to Carolina or the New York Islanders. Well, let's take it over to Carolina and let's meet their new front office, their new coaching staff. Actually, it's just a coach and a general manager. Kind of weird the way it happened. Waddell was a president over there. He made some moves in the offseason here, bringing some people in. And then, you know, Ron Francis gets pushed aside. Then Ron Francis leaves. Neuendijk leaves. And Rod Brind'Amour gets put up into the head coaching position. And it's an interesting move. I think it's good because Brind'Amour is a hardcore North Carolinian. I don't know, what do they call them? North Carolinians? I don't even know. But guy loves North Carolina more than life itself, which is funny because he was a total diehard through and through Flyer up until he came to the Carolina Hurricanes. But now that he's with the Hurricanes and they won a championship, he's been the guy. And he's been there for a number of years, and he's been in the coaching staff. And now he gets the bump up to the head coaching spot. That's what I love about it. The guy is a hardcore do-or-die North Carolina guy. He's got his family there. He's going to be in the deli. He's going to be in the supermarket. You know, people like that are really, really into the community are going to want to succeed a little bit more. Guy's a hard worker. Guy's a champion. No doubt about it. One of the greats in the game. What I don't like about this move is the owner. I don't like first-year coaches expecting to turn around franchises right away because you're going to make a ton of mistakes. We've seen this time and time again, i.e. the New York Islanders with Doug Weight. Doug Weight's a phenomenal player. He was a great assistant coach. He was good as a Band-Aid when what's-his-name got fired, and then he gets his first full season, and the Islanders flop. I don't like first-year coaches that were players. I like them just fine. If the Montreal Canadiens had it, if the Rangers went in that direction, you're rebuilding, you're putting it all together, fine. Fine with me. But not when you're this close and you need to make it. That's not the time, because I don't care how much experience you've had in this. I don't care how many cups you've won. When you're the guy, it's a whole different world. The greatest player this game has ever seen could not coach in this league. Couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. Greatest hockey mind, greatest everything, holds every single record. Nobody can ever tell me different. I don't know if we'll ever see a better player than Wayne Gretzky. I don't know if Connor McDavid is going to be that person. Do you think Sidney Crosby is that person? No. Closest thing we've ever seen. Obviously, Connor looks like he's going to be believe that close. But Wayne Gretzky stunk as a coach. And even if you're going to sit here and tell me Rod Brind'Amour is not as big as Gretzky and then he's more down to earth and blah, 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 and this and that. Okay, fine. He's still a first-year coach, and first-year coaches make mistakes. So do first-year general managers. By the way, so did all of us the first time we ever did a job. So, you know, that is one thing that I definitely don't like. What I noticed about the press conference, and I watched the entire press conference of Carolina introducing Don Waddell as general manager, which was not the job that Don Waddell wanted. He wanted to stay as president, stay on the business side of things. And Rod Brind'Amour's coach is Tom Dundon, the new owner, has the fiercest man crush on Rod Brind'Amour that I have ever seen. And I'm going to play a couple of clips here, and I'm going to illustrate that. It's a little uncomfortable and a little strange for me, the man crush that Tom Dundon has on Rod Brind'Amour. And I feel, look, if you want to have a man crush, have a man crush. I'm not going to judge you. Good for you. Whatever makes you happy. I just worry that the hearts coming out of Rod Brind'Amour's eyes, the fairy tale music that is playing, could distract you from really noticing what's actually happening, which is, you know, could be not good things. But as you'll hear in the clips here, I mean, they're talking about if they have to fire Rod Brind'Amour as the coach, what role is he going to move into? Like, I don't think that Rod Brind'Amour is going to ever get fired from this organization. All right, so here's Tom Dundon answering some questions. I forget the setup for this question, but essentially he goes into one of the things that he admires about Rod Brind'Amour.
And, you know, I try to judge people by what I want to compete with them. Could they beat me? You know, if we took on a challenge, whatever it is, a business, a ping pong game, it doesn't matter. I don't lose much, but I wouldn't want to go against him in anything. And so the culture is going to change because we're going to change it. And bringing in 100 new people or one, you should get the same result if that one's special. So I think we've got someone special here, and I know I can do it. I've done it, and I know he can do it because he's done it. So we're not going to cut all the players and get new players and think that makes you better. We're going to go through each person and see, can we make them better, or do we need to find somebody better? But it's, you know, it's sort of cliche to think that you're going to come in and just make change for change's sake. I think that would be silly. But there were places that needed to change, and I think we changed some of them. And now there's some processes that need to change that we're changing.
Just to follow up, how far down that road?
All right, so there's one of the things he talks about. You know, he's a competitive guy, and he wouldn't want to play against Rod Brind'Amour, but he wants somebody in there that's going to be fierce and is going to want to fight with him. So that's part A. Part B is a lot more convincing about the man crush. I got more man crush evidence, don't you worry. But just take a look at Tom as lovingly as he's looking at Rod. Just look at this photo. By the way, let me also say this. I think it's highly and this comes from a person who I literally make a living in sweatpants. I mean, I kid you not. One of the great parts about my job is I go to work every morning, do the morning show on the radio in sweatpants. I live my life in sweatpants and a t-shirt. Come summertime, I'll go shorts and a t-shirt, gym shorts and a t-shirt. It's the great part about being a broadcaster. It's phenomenal. You never have to wear a suit. And, you know, if you play it right, you can make more money than a lot of people that wear suits for a living get to make. So, and by the way, here on this show, if you notice, I wear a t-shirt all the time. I do that for a very specific reason. I could wear a collared shirt. I could wear a suit right now. I mean, I'm in my home studio. That would be kind of ridiculous. But for you, I could present myself in a much better fashion. I could just wear a sport coat. I could do all these things. I consciously choose not to. And not just because I don't want to wear a suit. That's part of it. But I want us to be on the same level. I read out your comments. I take your calls. You know, you guys are just, this is a conversation. This is not me dictating. This is you get to have a say. I have a say. We have a conversation. That is not an accident. Those are conscious decisions that, you know, we made when designing this show. So this isn't an accident. This is on purpose. You know, there's no lights here. You know, there's no special, you know, I mean, obviously we have studio lights. You can see it against my hand. There's it's a studio. It's got to sound good. It's got to be presented well. But I'm not up high. If you notice, a lot of shows, camera goes up. My camera points down, right? I'm on the same level as you. These are all decisions that we made for this show. There's no highly decorated moving friggin' thing back here. There's a couple of hockey sticks and a helmet like you probably have sitting in the corner of your room. These are all conscious decisions. I do want to switch this out for a TV one day. I could do it tomorrow, but I don't know. I keep going back and forth on it. But the point is this. Simplicity, you and me, conversation, you're 50%, I'm 50%. That's the idea. So that's the way we went with it. That all being said, and now you get an understanding of where I'm coming from, of why I want to be on your level, and I go to work every day in pajama pants. When you're the owner of a team and you address the media, put a friggin' suit on, okay? I don't care who you are, cool guy this, and, you know, I'm friends with, you know, what's his name in Dallas, right? All this garbage. Put a suit on and take your hat off. Have a little respect for the process. That's not something I say all the time. I like people that are cool and laid back. I love all of that. But take a look at Tom Dundon here. I mean, to me, this is disgusting behavior. It's disgusting behavior. People are shooting you. They got video cameras. There's all this lighting in the room. Nobody can see your eyes. Nobody can see your face. Take your hat off. This isn't McDonald's, dude. This is a press conference. And look, it's not like I'm like, have respect for the press. No, this to me is you addressing your fan base. Put on a goddamn suit and speak to them with respect. Because although he's sitting in a room and he's talking to nothing but press members, he is talking to his fan base. The press may get to answer the questions, ask the questions, I should say. But when you're answering them, your answers are going to your fan base. Show them the respect that they deserve. Because I'm sure there's a ton of people down there in Carolina that are working overtime and a bunch of other jobs just so they can afford to go to your games and take their kids to your games and pay $6 for your hot dogs. Put a goddamn tie on and show them the respect that they deserve. You don't show up in a raggedy zip-up shirt and a hat. You want to walk around and conduct business that way? That is fine. I'm not telling you got to wear a suit in the office all day long. I actually kind of like that. You know, you put your employees at ease. Tell everybody to take their hat off. No big. You take your tie off. Wear a hat. No big deal. I'm cool with all of that. When you talk to your fans, put a goddamn tie on and put a jacket on and comb your hair. Because you're addressing the people that give up their hard-earned money to be a part of your franchise. Have a little respect. Don't come in with this I'm a renegade attitude or bupkis. Leave that horse shit at the door. Show these people the respect that they deserve. So that upsets me right away. You look at Don Waddell, you look at Rod Brindamore, they're respectful, they're there, they're doing their job. They're dressed for the fans. They're dressed for the occasion. You know what I'm saying? That's what it is. So right off the bat, I don't like that. And I think that it's fairly clear knowledge that he's going to be the general manager of this team. Like Don Waddell is going to be there. Of course, he's the general manager in name, but he's the general manager in name only. All these decisions are going to be made by Tom. That's why they were searching for somebody and they never found him. So Don Waddell just goes in there because why the hell not? Why pay somebody a whole bunch more when you're not really going to listen to them anyway? You're going to make most of the decisions in the end of the day anyway. So, you know, that's that. Ralph, Carolina has a McDonald's organization. They hired these guys because they were cheap. You know, it's funny. Rod Brindamore made a joke about that he wasn't making a ton of money. But you know what? He really shouldn't. You're a first-time head coach. Go out there and prove yourself, and then you get paid. Coaching is like television. It's like radio. You think I made a lot of money my first couple of years? Absolutely not. I had to go out there and prove that I could do it. That's just the way it works. It's crummy in the beginning. It's really good in the end if you do it the right way. Same for coaching. Elaine Vigneault, gonna get paid. Mike Babcock got paid. You think he was making that money the first year he was in Detroit or Anaheim? No. He wasn't making Toronto Maple Leaf money back in Anaheim. Absolutely not. But he did it right. So he got paid. Here's point number 2 on the man crush of Tom Dundon and Rod Brindamore.
About who you feel inclined are keepers, who are guys you might look to replace. Are those discussions going on with all three of you?
Yeah. every day. He's been pretty involved, even if he hadn't become the coach. He was, one of the conversations I had with Roddy 2 months into this deal was.
Roddy, by the way, everybody, Roddy. He calls him Roddy. They have love names for each other. Well, I shouldn't say each other. There's a love name going in one direction. That's for sure. Roddy, ladies and gentlemen.
How do we find players that can be better? And we hope that the ones that are here are the best we can find. But like I said last time.
Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped ahead. Let me go back.
He's been pretty involved, even if he hadn't become the coach. He was, one of the conversations I had with Roddy 2 months into this deal was, no matter what happens here, out of what I've found is you're going to be around, whether you're upstairs, down here, it doesn't. You're the most impressive thing I've seen, and you live here, you care, you're going to be part of the organization for a long time. We just got to make sure in the things that we go through, for example, him becoming head coach, what happens if you're not head coach anymore? And that was a big concern of mine because I find him I think he's such a huge asset to us. So he has a lot of say in everything we do. And a lot of coaches, the season ends and they go home, and he's in here every day and going through tape and helping with our scouts, and he's got an opinion, and that's what we're going to be about all year long, looking at these players and seeing what resources can we give them to get better, and then how do we find players that can be better. And we hope that the ones that are here are the best we can find, but like I said last time, if we can find better ones, we'll do it. And that's the hardest part of this business, is you want to invest in these players, but then also know that they're not all going to be here 20 years from now.
Rod, looking back at
Rod is going to be here 20 years from now. Roddy's the most impressive thing I've ever seen. One of the things that Roddy and I talked about was when Roddy fails as coach, how can I keep him here? Me and Roddy had these discussions. Oh boy. I've never in my life heard that before. That was the new one for me. To me, that was the highlight. That was the one. Like, before he got hired as coach, they had a discussion on what needs to take place when I, as the owner, have to fire you as the coach to get you out, but still keep you in the organization, because I can't do this without you, Roddy. You're the most wonderful thing I've ever seen. Dear Lord. Dear Lord. Guys, hit the thumbs up on this video. Make sure you're hitting the thumbs up and sharing this around to all your hockey friends. And let everybody know tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, right here on the YouTube side only. Sorry, Facebook, but on the YouTube side only, we're going to do a live reaction show. Game 7, Predators, Jets. Should be good. Can the Predators finish it up all at home? Will the Jets be too much for them? Only time will tell. We'll be here to talk about it tomorrow night, right here, 8 o'clock on the Hockey Talk Show. Live reaction show once again. I've been having a lot of fun with these live reaction shows. They've been pretty good. Let me see here. This guy is going to make a huge run at Tavares. Who's going to make a huge run? I haven't been following the conversation. I'm sorry. If I missed something and I didn't answer your questions, shoot it over in the chat again. And I apologize, Facebook, for ignoring you. Let me go through and see what we got over here. Connor, what's up, man? Let's see. Preds Jets game 7. I think whoever wins the series skates the cup, says TJ over on Facebook. That's interesting. It's kind of true for me. I picked Nashville to win the cup, so I'm going to need them to win this one, or else my second round bracket is going to suck. What's the prediction for tomorrow night? I'm predicting that Nashville's going to win. I just think that their experience is there. I think their D is better. They've shown up and won when it counts, right? There were kind of 2 must-win scenarios for them in this series. I mean, you can make the argument they shouldn't have been trailing in the first place, but I think at home crowd, God, I hope Carrie Fisher's going to be there singing the anthem. And the offensive line is going to be there from the Titans. That's my hope. I just think it's going to be the Preds. I don't think it's the Jets' time just yet. I really don't. I think they're great. I think Hellebuyck can steal the game. It's hard to predict this one, but I have to err on the side of experience, and that for me is Nashville. So that's really, they're so close, these teams, obviously. And by the way, I did call a 1-1 overtime for Pittsburgh and Washington. Those two teams really similar, although Pittsburgh was slightly better down the lineup. But Holtby was better in net than Murray was. And we went into the overtime 1-1. I think we might be looking at an overtime game there, or a really, really close one. I mean, this is not going to be a 4-0 game like the last one was for the Predators. It's just not. Let me see here. Oh, I think I'm behind in the chat. Good chat on YouTube tonight, guys. You guys are killing it. Carry underwear. Love it. Love wordplay jokes. Canadian teams have all lost records in Game 7 of series. Have you been following the Isles news lately? McKenzie tweets on Tavares leaving Sorokin. I don't think we see Sorokin anytime soon. You're going to have to pay through the nose to get him over here. He's got 2 years left on his deal, I think. I just don't think I see Sorokin coming over here, John. I'm sorry to say that to you. As far as Bob McKenzie, I think he is the best insider that this game has ever seen. He's got a wonderful relationship with a lot of players, and he breaks a lot of news, maybe a little bit more than Darren Dreger and all the rest of them. But he's got his head up his ass if he thinks he knows what's going to happen with John Tavares, because nobody does. Only one person does, and that's John Tavares. I just literally can't sit here and speculate on John. We can talk about what could happen, but to sit there and go, it looks like John Tavares, probably might be leaning. You're talking out of your ass. Out of your ass. It's easy to say, why the hell would he stay with the Islanders? That's an easy one to say. Especially with their goaltending and defensive woes. But, look, we're not going to know until July 1. We might find out a little bit going into that 5-game, talking period that they have just before July 1st. That might be the earliest something leaks. But the only other indication I think we'll have is the draft. I think if the Islanders are aggressive in trying to pick up a goaltender, I think that is a good sign that Tavares will come back again. And that's the thing. That's why I also don't think that Tavares has made his mind up yet, because it's literally not the end yet. Like, the Islanders have time to do something. They can make a deal. They got 2 number 1 draft picks. I mean, think about what you can get for 2 number 1 draft picks. I mean, you look at Montreal, for instance. They don't need Pacioretty. They need defense. But you need a team that's in that Montreal sort of, place that can send over a goaltender, or send over, maybe it's Carey Price. I doubt it. I doubt it. I doubt it. But doubt it. But I just want to make sure I'm getting that across, because I don't foresee that happening. But I'm sure it's a scenario that Garth Snow sat down and said, I wonder how much I'd have to give up to get that. But I wouldn't, because $10 million is a lot for a goaltender. A lot for a goaltender. Which team would I like Tavares to sign with? The Islanders. JT, definitely not going to the Leafs. Eddie, I know you're just trying to poke at me. Hard to see Tavares leaving if these Lamoriello rumors are true. I honestly, John, in my heart of hearts, don't believe that any front office maneuvers can help this situation at this point. I think it's either you make a deal at the draft or you don't. That's it. I can't see a scenario where John comfortably not that it's impossible, because I still think he's got a great chance of signing back with the Islanders, but I can't see a scenario where you go to the podium for picks 10 and 11, or what do they have, 11 and 12, whatever the hell they have. You pick up 2 players and go back to John July 1 with 2 fresh draft picks, no Thomas Greiss in net, and the same tired defense that you've had. Like, that's how same coach, same general manager, no upgrade in defense, no upgrade on goaltending. It just, how can he sign? How can he sign? So I do see a scenario where John Tavares can sign with the San Jose Sharks. That's definitely possible. Joe Thornton, let's go through some of the rumors. Joe Thornton says he would like to re-sign with the San Jose Sharks. Remember, he signed a 1-year, $8 million deal this year. Apparently, he would be willing to take a little bit less money, or I shouldn't say a little bit less. They said he would be willing to take less money. If I were Joe Thornton, I would sign with the San Jose Sharks for one more season for the league minimum. Absolutely. Pay me $875,000 and I will come back. Why? Because I think the Sharks, although he's still a little bit of a wild card, should re-sign Evander Kane. And I think that they are a serious contender for John Tavares. They need some help up the middle. You know, Jumbo Joe can fall back into a third-line centerman position, right? Imagine that. Tavares, Pavelski, Thornton. That's a hell of a down the middle. Rivals Pittsburgh and what they had this year. But you take $8 million. I mean, there's no reason for Joe Thornton to want $8 million. You got to want to win at this point. And I understand wanting to stay with San Jose because they do have a good chance of winning. They made it to the second round of the playoffs. It's entirely possible. Vegas, obviously too much to handle for them, but they're not that far off. And if you added John Tavares to this team, it's pretty damn good. It's pretty damn good. And they have everything Tavares wants: goaltending, defense, other forwards who can contribute, experience in the front office, a chance at winning. There's a lot of things to love about San Jose. Nicer weather. There's a lot of things to love about San Jose. Not an insane media presence, but you need the $8 million that Joe is making this year. So if I were Joe Thornton, I would come back and sign for 1 year, league minimum me, and I'll be happy to donate my money to somebody else so we can come in and have a chance to win. The Pittsburgh Penguins. Obviously, Jim Rutherford comes out and says this insane statement of our team next year is going to look different. Well, okay, Jim, I'll bite. Let's take a look at what you can do and what your options are, because you do have some options. And they're an insanely good team. I mean, the Pittsburgh Penguins, again, I'm not sure what else it is exactly that you want from these guys. Now, I heard some people say, well, Derek Brassard didn't work, but also Derek Brassard was hurt. Brassard was hurt. Phil Kessel was hurt. So that's why you aren't getting the production out of some of those guys. So I think, look, Brassard makes $3 million a year on the cap hit. You're not paying him that because Vegas and Ottawa are paying a big chunk of that salary. But to get a good centerman in there at a third line for $3 million, do not touch that guy. Carl Hagelin, on the other hand, is another story unto itself. He's making $4 million this year. Wasn't really there for them so much this season. Was definitely not there for them in the playoffs. Definitely not there for them in the Washington series. To take $4 million off of your books for Carl Hagelin, I think would be the move to make. That, to me, is the move to make. You got Matt Murray at 3.75 for this season and next. You have $4 million worth of space. With Hagelin gone, you make another move somewhere down your lineup. Sheehan makes $2 million. You gotta move some stuff around. Justin Schultz makes $5.5 million. Brian Dumoulin is making $4 million. Ole Mata's making $4 million. Matt Hunwick is making $2 million. So if you dish a Matt Hunwick, if you get rid of Sheehan, if you can move Carl Hagelin. They have some defensive, Chad Ruedel. They got some defensive depth there with the young players. You can definitely bring in a John Tavares. You can shed Derek Brassard for that matter then because you don't need him to be a center. So there would be another $3 million. Even if you went with Brassard and Hagelin alone, if you got them off of your cap, that's $7 million you can throw at John Tavares. Now, he'll go on the market and make 10 or 11, but would he take 7 to go slot behind Crosby and Malkin? Not that I'm saying John Tavares would be a third line center, but he would be third on the depth chart in that team, in that organization. He would probably play wing with Sidney Crosby, and Jesus Lord, would that be scary. I actually probably would put him more with Malkin because he dishes just as much as he scores. But I would 87 to 91, that would be, and both of their points would go up 25% if those two played together. It would just be ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Have heard and read in more than one place that Ledecky is personally dealing with Tavares agent Pat Brisson. They have a good relationship. I mean, I've not read or heard that, John, but I've said it myself. I mean, it just makes sense. You know, owners are involved, especially when it comes to your guy. And that's the guy. What about Tavares to Vegas? Anton, absolutely. Especially if they lose James Neal and David Perron, which seems to be the chatter that I refuse to buy. But that seems to be the chatter in hockey circles, that Perron and Neal are not going to re-sign. Again, they could have re-signed already if they wanted to. So the fact that they haven't leads me to believe that it is a good possibility. But I just think that the closer this team gets to the Stanley Cup final, and if they actually win the friggin' thing, if you're James Neal, I mean, how could you walk away with that? The only way you can walk away with that is if you just hate the team, hate the area. And I don't know how James Neal feels about the area. I don't know what his personal, maybe he's got, you know, maybe he wants to play in a certain location, be closer to family, or I don't know. That's the only way. But Vegas has the cap space to pay him. He's on a winning team. He's on a great line. They're going to the Western Conference Finals. So you have a chance to be successful and make your money and live in a really nice place with a lot of entertainment and good food and great weather. I just, I don't know who would leave that. But again, if he wants to go live next to his Aunt Ida, you know, then he would. So I would not trade Phil Kessel if I were Pittsburgh. Kessel looked very tired against the Caps. Kessel was hurt. A lot of people don't know, and you never find out until the playoffs are over, but it always happens, you know, exit interviews and all that. Phil Kessel and Derek Brassard were both hurt. That's why they weren't playing well. So I would not trade Phil Kessel one iota, not even close. Never happening. I think the San Jose Sharks should stick with Evander Kane, although it's a risk. But, I mean, think about this. You can literally, if you're San Jose, bring back Evander Kane. You can bring back Jumbo Joe, and you could bring in John Tavares if Jumbo Joe doesn't take $8 million. He can't even really take $1 million. It's all up to Jumbo Joe if the San Jose Sharks are going to be a big player for John Tavares. But again, you can dish Carl Hagelin and you can trade Derek Brassard. You can get $7 million off your cap, and you can make John Tavares a $7 million offer. I'm sure he'd want to, you know, win with Pittsburgh. You know, you're just looking at teams that have the space that can win, and there's a whole ton of them. I think Pacioretty definitely goes. We talked about Pacioretty, right? Pacioretty definitely goes. I think he should. Montreal just needs a restart here. Let's see here. St. Louis needs to make an upgrade. There's been some rumors swirling that Sergei Bobrovsky would become available if Korpisalo is ready to take over for Columbus. Again, I'm not necessarily sure that Korpisalo is a Vasilevsky type player, but it's entirely possible. We'll have to wait and see. St. Louis is an interesting team. They're definitely going to have to make some moves. A couple of teams that I'm looking at, St. Louis, that I need to spend a little bit more time with, and the Dallas Stars. I mean, what the hell do the Dallas Stars have to do? They got to do something. New coach is going to be great. He's going to have some of his, you know, tendencies and what he's going to want to do. But I just don't know what you do with this team. And then you got Tyler Seguin with impending free agency. There's a lot to think about there. What's the prediction for William Karlsson's new contract? I have a hard time believing he remains point per game player. I think he does really well. I don't know if he scores 40 goals again, but you got a 25-30 goal scorer in William Karlsson. I believe that. As is the case most times, and I learned this when I worked for the Islanders because I saw some of the things that occurred during that time, especially during free agency. When you're re-signing a guy, when you want to bring in a guy, it's not this complicated scenario of blah, blah, blah. You literally call up the agent and go, how much does he want? Okay, fine. There's really not much else to it. I wish I could tell you it's more complicated and these GMs are so savvy and there's offers and counter offers and all that. How much does he want? and for how long. And the difference, you know, between salaries now, especially in the salary cap era, not that different on what team can offer you what. All the arenas are the same. All the areas are super nice, right? All the players fly private. I mean, there's no... The only advantages exist in state tax states. You know, obviously Canada's taxes are different than the States, but these are minor things most of the time. So there's really not much of a difference there. So as far as Karlsson goes, they're going to slide a piece of paper over the desk, whether it's in person or digitally through text message, and they're going to say, what does he want? And they'll decide whether or not they want to keep him. The problem with Vegas is they got a lot of space. A lot of space to make some moves. That's why they could absolutely bring in Tavares. A lot of people say Tatar coming into the deadline was a brace to let Neal and Perron go. So we'll see what happens with the Vegas Golden Knights. But there's not a ton of trade rumors out there, but there are a good, healthy amount. Let's wrap it up with the last couple of questions here. Rob thinks no on Corpy. I don't think he's a Vasilevsky type guy too, but clearly the Blue Jackets are going to want to make some adjustments. I mean, it's interesting to see all the teams that want to make some adjustments, right? Dallas, Carolina, the Islanders, all these teams that didn't make it but are kind of on the cusp and almost there. You know, then you got your Senators and your Canadians in a different category, and then you got all the teams that made it: the Devils, the Blue Jackets, Pittsburgh now all of a sudden, you know, Anaheim and what they have to do. They got to make some changes and some moves. So that's why I just think there's going to be a slew of trades. I think there's going to be a lot of activity around the deadline. I think there's going to be a lot of activity right before July 1 and after July 1 as people look at the free agency market and realize there's only one, you know, JVR. There's only one John Tavares. And especially, like I said, with Seguin, if he doesn't resign, that changes the Tavares scenario. Because if I'm Vegas or if I'm San Jose, you know, if I'm one of these teams that can get Tavares and the price is too high for me, or, you know, the term is too long, or I don't like that he can't really skate all that great, I'm going to say, well, I'll wait for Seguin. I'll give Seguin $11 million, and he'll come in here and skate like lightning and give me the same amount of points. So, what's the trade deadline in free agency like in the office? Crazy. Crazy. I went in... One year, I can't ever remember what year it was. One year, I went in, I wasn't even supposed to work. Trade deadline day, there's not a lot of press around. You call a presser at one time. The press know when to come. Most of them are all busy writing. So a lot of them don't really have press conferences at the location. It's usually like a call. At least that's what the Islanders did back in the day. But I can remember when I was an intern, I don't think I was there. I think I had one of the interns texting me things. He was like, he was standing in and around Milbury's office. Milbury was the general manager then. And I remember getting messages from him. I even forgot his name, John or Tom or something. So that was interesting. But I remember like us getting a brash talking to that we could not say anything. I remember there was a dry erase board in the general manager's office. At the time, we had offices in Plainview, but we also had offices in the Coliseum. So game day operations were in the Coliseum. Every other time we weren't at the Coliseum. We were in the offices in Plainview. So in the offices, in the general manager's offices in the Coliseum, which were such a dump, there was a dry erase board, and I remember just seeing just names as far as the eye can, just top to bottom, just names, just names. I mean, that's what these guys do. They just list. If we can get this guy, great. If we can't get that guy, then we'll get that guy. If that guy are not gone, then they will get this guy and that guy. If this guy's available, then we'll get this guy and that. You know, this is what they do. This is literally what they do. So I remember seeing that. But so one year I wasn't there, and I was just texting with one of the other guys. And then another year I wasn't scheduled to be there because the vice president of communications handles everything on that day. Because again, it's not entirely difficult. It's not like you're trying to keep track of 20 players. You're literally just keeping track of your general manager. And I remember going in and I wasn't scheduled to be there, and they were kind of like, "What are you doing here?" And I was like, "I just catching up on some things," but I just wanted to be there. It was crazy. It was hectic. A lot of people running around. Millbury didn't have a huge staff back then, so it wasn't like, papers flying everywhere. But the intensity of it, it was just like being in a game. It was just like being in a game. Like, you're nervous. You want them to do well. It was like that, so like all the rest of the staff that had nothing to do with actually making a trade, they were all nervous and they were like running around and doing all kinds of crazy things. So Daniel, Plainview of what? I'm sorry. Plainview is a town in Long Island. How many times a day did you want to punch Millbury in the face? Be honest. Pro tip, 0 times. Mike Millbury was the most cordial, wonderful person to me and the rest of the staff. I enjoyed him immensely. He was a very good guy. I thought, honestly, and don't kill me on this, he was a good general manager sans the last year and a half. When he traded Michael Peca, that's when Mike went downhill, because he knew he was going to get fired. He knew he was just going to try and shake things up. There was issues between Michael Peca and Alexei Yashin. Yashin was not happy. They were doing everything they could to make Yashin happy. They had to put the C on his shirt. They knew they couldn't take it away from Michael, so they traded Michael off, which was a mistake, because that team was better when they were both there together. But never, not once. And I keep teasing this story, and I will have to tell it one day, and maybe in hockey season number 2 for us here in the Hockey Talk Show. But again, there was a confrontation during the Islanders Tampa Bay Lightning series. You'll have to look up the year. And I had a little bit of a run-in with John Tortorella, who I still enjoy to this day. But there was a little bit of an issue. It had nothing to do with me. It was going on all series long. I just got caught in the middle of it, and Mike came to my rescue, and I couldn't believe what actually transpired. It was unbelievable, but he was a stand-up guy and very, very nice to his staff. Angry, grumpy, wanted to win really hard, but good guy all around. Would you ever try to make the Hockey Talk Show a radio show? Juan, no. And here's why. And Daniel likes your question. Here's why. And by the way, pro tip, just before I get into that, I totally understand why everybody hates Mike Millbury. I get it. I get it. But here's the thing that most people forget. He had 0 ownership. He had the John Spano thing, and he had zero budget. Like, the Rangers payroll at one point during the 90s was $54 million, I think. It was like the highest payroll in the league. The Islanders payroll was $16 million. I think the time, don't quote me on this, I'd have to really go back and look at it, but I think the time that the Rangers signed Bobby Holik, which was a bad signing, Bobby Holik was literally making more money than the entire Islander organization was making. So I don't know anybody that could turn that team, make that team a winner. And by the way, today you can talk about draft this and draft that. He had 1/10 of the scout staff that teams have today. A lot of people don't talk about this, and maybe we can spend some time on it, but front offices have bulked up so much in the National Hockey League. You have so much depth. Again, back then, Millbury was the general manager or coach. Now you have a general manager, an assistant general manager, a vice president of hockey operations, a president, the owners making decisions, the owner's sisters making, it's insane the staffs they have in the front office now. Juan, we would never make this a radio show, and the reasons why is this is the exact show that we wanted to make. We want to be on Facebook and YouTube. I want to be in your pocket at work, on the subway, as you're walking home. I don't want you to have to fumble to find a radio dial. Absolutely no way, shape, or form. I like the live factor that we have on Facebook and YouTube, and I like the on-demand that you get after the show is over on both those mediums and also via podcast, so that if you want to listen to the show as you drive home, you absolutely can download the podcast. It's just where the world is going. To do a show like this where you talk to everybody in North America, and as we've seen here from Nights, people from the Czech Republic, and we're all over the world. You can't do that on a radio show. I got a radio show here that's on the FM dial, and it's very specific. Those shows are very, very specific. It's hard to get into the elaborate details of why, but it's tremendously different. When I talk to my audience here in Long Island, I talk to them very differently. I mean, we're still laid back and stuff like that, but I talk to them about what's going on in our neighborhood. I can't do that now. I have to talk about what's going on in our neighborhood, which is the National Hockey League. So for a bazillion reasons, that is why we wouldn't take this on to the radio. Also, there does not really exist an infrastructure to do a nationally, both in the States and in America and in Canada, show on the radio. It just doesn't exist. Sirius XM has an NHL channel, but you have to pay to be on that, and I don't think that that's right. And the NHL Network is the only other thing that reaches both North America, the United States, and Canada. So they don't like personalities whatsoever either. So that's why this world exists. Knowing what I know from the radio stations and what I know from the marketing world, because I also have a very small marketing consultant agency, this is where the world is. Think about how much of the Hockey Talk Show you guys consume. How many other people, you can do a show of hands, a thumbs up, or a I do, or whatever. How many of you guys consume other forms of content on YouTube or Facebook? I'll raise my hand. I watch more YouTube, Facebook, and Netflix than I do any sort of regular TV. I listen to more podcasts and on-demand shows like this than I ever did, do actual radio. So it's just where the world is going. And we're into a world now where you can do niche programming. I can talk to you guys just about hockey, and I don't have to worry about losing anybody else. You know, on my radio show, if I want to talk about the Beatles or Neil Young or Dave Matthews Band or whatever, Fleetwood Mac. Fleetwood Mac was something we talked about recently. If I want to talk about Fleetwood Mac, I have to worry about losing the person that wants to hear me making jokes. And I have to worry about losing the person who hates Fleetwood Mac. I don't have this issue here. I got all hockey fans. Even if I'm not talking about your team right now, I could be talking about it in a second from now. So you're not leaving anyway. So that's what's great about Facebook and YouTube. So that's why we wanted to do this show. This show, and believe me, I got another show, and I like doing it. This show, this exact show, is the exact show I wanted to do. You can go and Google this. Google Jerry Seinfeld, comedians in cars getting coffee. It doesn't get bigger than Jerry Seinfeld. He could have signed a multi-million-dollar deal with any television network he wanted. He could have gotten as much money as he wanted. He chose to go stream his show on not even Netflix. It started on Crackle, which was horrific. Now he's on Netflix. But that's where he chose to be. And that's where I want to be. In your pocket, on your phone, on your tablet, on your couch. You know, that's where I want to be. Honestly, you should do donations. I know people have the same viewers as you, and they get donations. Just some extra cash. I think it's worth it. Juan, there will come a time where we have a Patreon. We have all that stuff. We will break that out eventually so that if anybody wants to contribute, they can. We do have merchandise plans in the works, Eddie, to answer your question. I'm a big fan of our logo. I actually like it a lot, but we got some other fun hockey stuff planned as well. And it will all come in due time. I really wanted to hold off on all that stuff because I wanted to build a base and I wanted to build a community first, and we'll have time for all that stuff later because we're going to be doing this for a really long time. So That is that. Joe, Flyers fan, love the damn team, but I also love hockey and love all the rumors, and most of them can turn out to be BS. Yeah, even when we know they're BS, they're still kind of fun to talk about, though, right? But that's what's great. The ones that are made up, we can sit here and tackle and be like, that's possible or that's impossible. So that's what's fun even about the made up ones. Some of them get crazy out there. Oh my God. I see some Instagram accounts and some Twitter accounts. They got like 50 million followers, but everything out of their mouth is garbage. And what do you think happens to those places? Eventually, they all go down. It's got to be genuine or it ain't going to last. That's just the way it is. Believe me, I know how to do a show. I've been doing it for 15 years on the radio. I know what it takes. You got to be genuine. You've got to be in it. You got to be genuine. If you're just making up crap, nobody's going to stick with you because eventually you're going to be found out. Somebody asked me did I ever get a chance to meet Bill Torrey? I did not. I don't believe so. No, I don't think so. No, because you know what? He was involved with the Panthers. I'm trying to think if he ever came up for a Panthers game. I'd have to think about it. If I may have saw him, I didn't like actually shake his hand and talk to him. I would remember that for sure. But no, Denny Ponfin got to deal with on a few occasions. Not a super long conversation there. Again, mostly work stuff, getting him stats and all those kinds of things. But I love the questions about my time with the Islanders. I love answering stuff about that. Since you mentioned Patreon, I've been hearing that you get a small percentage of what people donate to you. You should look it up. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Patreon seems to be the overwhelming choice to go with. There's probably some things that are better out there. I know we have a Twitch channel as well. I think we did it once. I know I should pay a little bit more attention to Twitch. Once we get past the season, we'll look at a couple of those things. And we'll just see what happens there with that. But yeah, we got some stuff. And Juan, I appreciate all your comments tonight and your questions. And I'm glad that there's some of you guys out there that are willing. By the way, I've had people message me that are saying, like, where can I give you money to keep this up? Like, I appreciate it. And there'll come a time for that if you have it. But for right now, I'm just having a good time talking hockey with you guys. All right, but we're going to leave it there. I believe we're, an hour? How long did we do tonight? Almost an hour and 15 minutes. All right, not bad. 2.5 hours coming tomorrow night for the live reaction show. Winnipeg and Nashville. I'm picking the Nashville Predators. By the way, we already have a schedule for the Eastern Conference, and that starts Friday night, baby. Friday night, May 11th, 8 o'clock. Washington will be in Tampa, and I can't wait to see that. Obviously, there's no Western Conference schedule yet because they don't know if it's going to be Winnipeg or Nashville. But it's going to be good either way tomorrow night. So I hope to see you guys back here on the channel. Remember, share this around. We put a post up on our Facebook and Twitter. Hit the share button on that. Let everybody know. Live stream show coming up Thursday night right here, 8 o'clock on the Hockey Talk Show. Juan's got Nashville. I love it. Eddie, I promise I will check out that cartoon. And you guys have a great night for the rest of the night. Have a good evening. I'll see you guys on the next shift, which is